Hello. Happy Monday. I am so disorganized. What's happened is that somehow I think sometimes with digital work, a series of delays or procrastination or like trying to find creative inspiration to do project work, you find yourself with everything colliding all at once. And that's what's happened to me in the last couple of weeks, which is that I've been wanting to get my own website done, various stuff done, my book written, plus client work. I've also been suffering a bit of creative block when it comes to website work and design work. So what I thought, well, let's start from square one, which was let's just I haven't been writing because I haven't been doing anything. I haven't been creating anything. It's all been so ad hoc because my website I haven't given any real attention to my own website for like probably 10 years. Like more like 5. My personal website, right? My business website, I haven't even looked at for like the last 3 years. So like, because I've just had creative block, but I haven't been able to just do anything like write or create or anything like that because I've just gone, I can't, because this is my OCD part of me, I think, which is where it's like, I can't invite people over if I haven't done the house. And if I was going to drive traffic to my website, then I wanted it to be right when it landed and all that sort of stuff. This is how my fucking brain works. So I gave my website some love. I've put a couple of products up for merch. I've set that up. And I've also, but also what that did was I just wanted to really look at, I haven't done like a printful merch e-commerce project for a while. So what I thought I would do was just invest a bunch of time in sort of upskilling in some of the emerging stuff. And then because I had another e-commerce project to build as well, so for an art gallery. So I thought, okay, I'm struggling creative here. Let's just use myself as a client and just try to break the dam when it comes to like, web design and that sort of stuff. Like it's still not perfect. And then I've got another project where I've been sort of struggling creatively with that as well. Trying to find inspiration to do something good. I mean, I think that's the thing with corporate work is that, like I've gone through this period where, the creativity gets sucked out of corporate work unless you are sort of a handful of those real creative agency types where they get to do whatever they want. For the most part, you end up stuck in design pattern land, all of this stuff. You don't get to be like really creative or do anything very innovative. So basically, this is my roundabout way of saying I've been fucking busy. And as much as I want to talk about all this, I am going to quickly talk about stuff today. Just some of my thoughts that I've alluded to on Twitter, but I think it's very important to say it on video because you get to see it's the non-verbal stuff, right? Or sorry, not non-verbal. Yeah, non-verbal. See, my brain's working today. You can tell already. Fucking tired. I'm puffy. My skin's all dry. I don't know if you can see, but it's all broken out. Like it's just rashes and stuff because I've been eating too much. I've been eating gluten and I'm not supposed to. So I'm just, going through some stuff. But yeah, anyway, so that's the kind of where I'm at, which is that I haven't been necessarily neglecting the projects that I want to work on. I still want to do Brave every day. I still want to do, all this stuff, but there's a lot of work to do. And the reality is that it's not my job. right? This is the first time that, I get a bit busy with my client work who pay me, they pay me to do web design and all of that sort of and consulting and all that sort of stuff. Second I get a project, this has to fall away. It's just how it is. That's called being a grown-ass adult. Okay, I'm one of those people who doesn't have a full-time grifty job slamming Trump or writing think pieces, or I don't have any support. What I do is I try my best, okay, to try and do some of this stuff around the stuff that pays my bills. It doesn't bring me joy. It doesn't make me happy, okay? I don't get the luxury of monetizing my identity, because my identity as a woman is, not monetizable. So, and that's something that I just want to talk about a little bit, because, I think people, there's a little bit of I think everyone's stressed out. Everyone's under fucking pressure. Everyone's in a pressure cooker. And I think that a lot of stuff is coming to light. And I just want to make it clear that, I don't know, I want to try and I use humor, but I want to try and be a voice of reason with people. Okay. I just want to try I just want to try and heal and try to make people move forward, and sort of call people out when they're kind of acting like a dick, right? So I think that that's maybe one thing that I could talk about, which is a concept in philosophy called the principle of charity. Now, this is something that I think it's not a theoretical concept, right? It's a methodology, or it's an approach. It's how you should, in all honesty, it's how you should approach anything. It's how you should approach most things in life, I think, in order to be happy. Okay. There's that saying, it's falsely attributed to Buddha, but it's still a good saying, right? It's a bullshit saying, but anyway, it comes from AA, which is that, anger or resentment are like drinking poison and hoping that the other person dies, right? Or something like that, right? That's how I feel about a lot of this stuff. And that's where I think with Trump, I think what's happened, I think I mentioned this probably this week, I think. Apologies, I'm warming up. But I was thinking about this, is that sometimes, and again, I'm not religious. I don't necessarily believe in fate. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in those things. But one thing I do believe, and this is something that has happened to me throughout my life, is that life as it is, and I know we're getting a bit deep, but I'm just, superficially deep, not fucking, but I just want people to start thinking about this, right? Because this is a real opportunity to choose and decide what kind of person you are, what kind of person you want to be. This has been somewhat of a reset for a lot of people. And I also truly believe, and this is through my life, okay, because I grew up quite very disadvantaged. I didn't have anything given to me. None of, I still, everything has been just a fucking exercise in class consciousness, being sort of, overlooked, stolen from, taken advantage of, all of those things, right? If I was a sort of wealthier, I would be a lot further ahead, right? So I understand the class aspect for a lot of this stuff, okay? Life has this ability to give us lessons. And I don't believe that it's God moving levers, right? I don't believe that it's fate. But what I believe is that if you are truly on a good path, right, and you're on the right path, that when repeated lessons keep coming up and repeated challenges keep coming up, right? This is the part of, I guess, a Christian faith. Like, there's good teachings in Christianity and Bible study. Even I grew up Catholic, but even if you can't make that leap to there being a God who created us and all that sort of stuff, don't throw the philosophy away, which is this idea that life gives us a series of lessons. And one of the things that has sort of recurred for me throughout my life is that I do keep getting the same lessons over and over and over and over again. Or the same feeling, that same gut feeling that something's not right, or that same, that those instincts, right? And I don't learn things the first time. I'm somebody who has, it's an ADHD thing, right? It's also autism thing, but it's also just my personality and nature, my stubborn nature, that I tend to take a few times to learn a lesson, like with relationships, right? I didn't learn the first time that about the bad relation. It took me several bad relationships before I realized that this just wasn't good and that I needed to change me, right? And this is something that wokes can learn, right? This is something that anybody who's, even if you disagree with my politics or disagree with how I say things, I do have some wisdom when it comes to sort of getting through life and trying to figure stuff out. And I know that this a lot of this extends to how I see 2020 as a year to really think about who you are. And I think people tend to reveal who they really are in a crisis. And I'm not saying that people aren't and one of the things with this sort of woke ideology stuff, right, and critical theory is this idea that all of this happens, right? All of this, actually, Moop Sloop, that's a good point. So Moop Sloop said gut feelings are underrated, right? If something feels off, you're probably correct. Yes, and that's the thing, right? I think people, again, a lot of this stuff, like, unfortunately, I'm just one of those people who's fucking got a million different, like, I read obsessively. I have just everything, okay? I may not have a PhD, but I have like the equivalent of several in my I do the work, right? And I think people just really don't know the difference, right? One book actually I recommend, maybe I should do that on my website, is a list of books that I recommend. One of them is Mark Manson. Now, I love Mark Manson. He wrote the Art of Not Giving a Fuck, which is a great book, but his follow-up book is actually tremendous because what it does, he kind of represents the kind of book I wish I could write. This nice sort of pop psychology, but it's grounded in theory. He's a tremendous writer. I highly recommend it. But it's Everything is Fucked, a story about hope. Now, what he does is it's a nice entry to a lot of the psych theory and a lot of the concepts. And he kind of, talking about sort of delayed adolescence and cognitive biases and sort of all of that sort of stuff. But one thing that a lot of people don't know is the difference between intuition and instinct. So intuition is something where maybe you're taking in something, but it's a feeling. It's more of an emotional thing, right? Instinct is actually something that you have based on experience, and that you may not be at the forefront of your consciousness. Again, psychology, like nerds, I'm being simplistic, but the forefront, it's not at the forefront of your mind. You can't exactly process it, but your instincts tell you that something is off. Okay. And this is something, instinct versus intuition is something, they're different things. Intuition is sort of more of a emotional lizard brain kind of thing. Instinct is more based in experience. And I have learned to, first of all, differentiate between intuition and instinct. They're very different things. I trust my instincts. So if there's something that I have been through, this is why I can spot this grooming. It's why I can spot child abuse. It's why I can spot gaslight. I'm a victim of abuse. I've been a victim of abuse for most of my, a good portion of my formative years were very highly abusive. Okay, so I'm saying, trust those instincts. So instincts are based on experience. Okay, that's why I'm good at what I do professionally, because even if I can't logically explain, right, a lot of stuff of this, you find the data later, but instinct, it's like the hunch, the cop's professional hunch. It's different. It's not a feeling. It's not psychic. It is based on something the patterns that you know to be true and that you can't fully articulate right now. right? Like with my book and a lot of this stuff that I've been doing with my videos, a lot of that is the fact that I have followed my instincts throughout my career, that I go, look, I know what is true and false and good and evil. And, I have it's really basically, think about a pattern memory, right? Think about pattern memory, but for sort of the unconscious, right? Anyway. But yeah, so your mind. So Moop Sloop said yes. I don't know if the chat's coming up. Sorry if it's not. I haven't sorry if the chat widget's not coming up. Hang on, let me just check because I would like it to come up because this is a chat thread. Refresh cache. All right, hang on. Let me just do a quick test, eh? Let's just interrupt the stream to be a fuckwit. Test chat. There we go. Is it coming up? It is. Okay, good. There we go. Okay, good. I didn't expect to go down this path, but what I thought I'd say was, okay, the one thing, and I know I sound a million years old when I talk about this, but it is so true that once you hit your 40s, you start to get a sense of who you are. Life is fantastic, but these developmental stages of humans are pretty fucking cemented right now. And I've hit 40 and there's things I've learned. So, life gives you a series of tests where I think over time you are gradually eroded or empowered or, I don't have the words for it. Okay, so through my life, right, I've been better at saying no to things that didn't feel right to me. Okay. So I haven't been good interpersonally, not so much. Professionally, yes. So with the social dilemma, right? I have a lot to say about that documentary. I can't remember if I've talked about it on stream, but maybe I should talk about it separately. But the main problem that I have with that documentary is that we did warn them. They're on this video and they're on the documentary. Fucking hell, Taya. They're on the documentary and they're acting like nobody predicted this. This was unpredictable. This was a happy accident. Look at me. Oh no, I got rich. Oh no, well I have my conscience. And I know for a fact that there's people like me and many like me who are not rich. In fact, actually have been sidelined and held back in our careers because we've pointed out that this stuff was unethical. We wouldn't participate in this stuff. We questioned it. I've said this before. I've been in conferences with engineers and tech bros who were talking about big data and life events and how we could, use those things to nudge people in the direction. Like I remember talking to the fucking CIO of Woolworths and saying, I know what they're doing, right? I know exactly what they're doing. The reason they know what you're buying and they predict you is because that's what they're doing. They've been doing it for 10 years and I said straight up, I believe that this is unethical. It will not end well. And I think that you need to put a line in the sand. And guess what I got? I got a pat on the head. Thank you, sweetheart. What would you know? And basically, that's why as much as I do love doing what I do for the most part, because it's simple and easy and it keeps me able to think in other things. However, I've been doing websites for 25 years and I'm still making websites, right? There's a reason for that, which is the fact that I am somebody who refuses to do the evil shit. Okay? So I have to do the equivalent of sort of hand jobs for crack in an alleyway because so that's why with the social dilemma, I feel a bit like, yeah, come on, guys. Now you've got a conscience because it's actually fucking, and it's on Netflix, which is just bizarre because Netflix is a fucking operations in psyops if ever there was one. So it's just, fuck me. Okay, so anyway, ignore it. It's just propaganda. They've been caught. It's not, see, that's the thing. So throughout your life, you're given a series of challenges, okay, of your conscience, of your morality, okay? Now, I'm not talking about religious morality. I'm talking about, are you a decent person? Am I good? Now, that's an ongoing question in philosophy. What is it good? What is the good life, right? And again, people have different views on that. My view of a good life is that I did the right thing. I tried. I didn't get distracted by things that could corrupt that. So like money and power, influence, those sorts of things. And if I was ever faced with a choice between my moral compass or my values and money or power or influence, I would always try to choose. Oh, well, always would. It turns out I actually always have, but I would always choose my values. And that has impacted my career. It has hurt me professionally. I am one of the best minds in the digital industry, but I don't do evil. I don't sell out. I could be that's the thing. I don't do it. So this is why I'm stuck. This is why I'm stuck making websites and talking on YouTube. It's just how it is, right? So it's cool. So I'm just saying, sorry, I just realized I forgot to monetize this fucking video. Anyway, I might get my 30 cents. My point is, okay, I know I'm rambling, but I'm getting to my point, which is that I feel like there is a collision and people are having a real crisis of morality and they're losing. We're losing, okay? Now, I'm begging you as somebody who's not religious to think about, I don't know, okay. There's something to be said for not wanting to go to being motivated by not wanting to go to hell and wanting to go to heaven. I have a feeling that there is something that keeps people who aren't already philosophical and already sort of, thinking about this stuff. It keeps them on the straight and narrow. And for me, I think for people who, there is an argument there. And again, I'm not saying that Christianity or religion is the answer. I'm saying that a sense of values and morality is, and compassion. Okay. Now, yes, there's Christians who don't have compassion, just like there are, atheists who do, like myself. But I'm saying, if you find yourself spending all of your time, and there's a few events here that I'm going to talk about that there's a common thread, which is where, again, it's not about what you believe, it's about your behavior. I've talked about this several times. They're separate things. If you spend your time thinking about how you can damage or hurt or, another person, I think that that's a sign that you might be on the wrong path, whether it's the President of the United States, whether it is your neighbor, whether it is your children, your partner. I'm on the left because I don't like seeing people in pain and unnecessary suffering. I'm on the left because I joined the left, whatever the fuck that means. Again, theoretically complex. The old, it's basically, the side of the fucking parliament you sat on. I think we need to get away from that. But anyway, but I joined these things, okay, because I believed that we were on the side of not hurting people. And all of a sudden, the left has become about hurting people, okay? It really has. And that's the thing where I will always go with the people or the tribe or, no tribe, but I will back the organizations, the publications, the people who don't hurt other people. And I think that that's been the common thread for me throughout this whole thing. And I think that really does articulate the bitter taste that is left in my mouth, which is that I don't care if you're on the right side of any issue. If you are trying to hurt, and I'm not talking about jokes, I'm not talking about offending everybody because everyone's fucking offended. I'm talking about if you actually, if there's a sadistic aspect to what you're doing, okay, I'm not on your side. Okay. Now, so this is why, okay, so there was an article on Uncommon Ground about gender critical feminism, which basically named a number of trans people who are allies in our movement, and basically just, alluded to the idea that, well, didn't allude directly. If they had alluded, I'd probably be a bit more charitable. But they alluded to the idea that they were all just grifters, and that anybody who admits that trans is real is not truly gender critical. Now, first of all, trans is real, okay? Anybody who, like evolutionary biology, it is real, okay? The definitions have changed. They have, okay? If you don't believe that trans is real, then you are denying science, because there is science for that, okay? It is called gender dysphoria. Okay, and it fuck me, okay? You're just as bad as the rest. Sorry, it's school holidays, my kids are here. Can you guys go in your rooms till I finish streaming, please? Or come and say hello. Can you just, all right, there we go. Sorry, guys. Okay. It is like, but even if you're saying trans isn't real, and you don't believe it is, this is my frustration, which is that science is evolving. And I've said this before, okay? There is some evidence that it is real, okay? You're doing the exact same thing. Not now. I need 15 minutes, guys. Sorry. Okay, so there's evidence that it's real. So if you turn around saying that it's not real, you're just as bad as the people who are saying it's 100% fucking all gender and nothing is real. We're in the grey area, and this is why we need to be open. This is why we have to be science-based. It's why we need to, when I talk about it's the instinct versus intuition, this is what I'm talking about, okay? Just either way you feel a certain way, that's not science, okay? The science is showing that, sorry, I've gotten rattled and distracted by food hunters. He's like a grumpy teenager. Okay, very good. Okay. Anyway, let's just give me a minute. Let's chill. Ask me a question. So, my point is, okay, what do you achieve by, again, I'm not talking about the theoretical argument about gender, okay? The theoretical argument about gender, I'm not talking about that. You can fill your boots with that. That's a philosophical discussion, okay? Philosophy is not fucking science. They're not the same thing. So for you to declare a philosophical thing to be true, okay, without any science, which there is some science. There is not as much as they say, but there's some, okay? You're just being a dick. Anyway, I can't remember what my point was. Oh yeah. So if you're trying to make fucking hell, they're just distracting me. They're driving me. I've asked them to leave and they just fucking like, sorry, I'm just going to have to wait like 5 minutes for them to be done. You know, children. This is why I need to move my office. Hint. Imagine children wanting food. What the fuck? Why wanting to be fed and all that shit? I think they're going to be pissed off with me. Anyway, that's all right. Okay, so, sorry guys. Let me get back to it. Even if you are right, okay, if the science is out, okay, at best, right? It's the science is out on this. Okay? It is, yes, it's misrepresented, okay? But if you start getting into anti-science debates, I'm not on your side, okay? It doesn't matter which side you're on. Yes, there is a feminist argument, and the arguments presented in the article were interesting. And I actually probably agree, right? Which is that a lot of people do tend to fall over the trans people and the men in the movement, right? And as much as I love Graham and all of those sort of male allies, I do notice that we fall over the men and we don't support the women. The men get money, the men get support. Jules still hasn't taken the hint, even though I've asked repeatedly to not turn the kettle on. Fuck me, I'm streaming, guys. Can I have 10 minutes, please? Okay. Now, all right. Yeah, I've got a compressor on anyway. It's all good. So it's actually just more that it's distracting for me, not so much that it's not like hidden from here. So anyway, keep going. It's more just distraction because I'm trying to keep my thoughts together and I can't do it with people in the house. So anyway, welcome to my world, folks. Guess who's going to be in a different office tomorrow when they stream? This is going to have a door to close. I've got a games room, right? So that's the thing. So we've got quite a large games room and it's got like, I was going to build it into a studio. It's got my office and everything and it's sort of open. It's got lots of light. I look out onto the pool, but it's also got the kitchen and stuff. I do have a spare room that I was going to make an office, but I thought I'd make an office studio hybrid. I don't think this is working. I always crack it during school holidays. Every school holidays, I end up moving my office back into a spare room. It's pretty funny. Anyway, sorry, let's go again. Anyway, so this is why I didn't stream last week. So I'm also off my game because I haven't streamed for like a little while anyway. I'll make some clips, but what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Science denial. I don't care who it is. And even if I agree with you, some of the arguments, right? Oh, yes, that's right. The arguments. So, yes, I have noticed and observed that, for example, again, it's nothing to do with the individuals. I'm not, and this is how you can do it without naming individuals, right? But it's also kind of a consequence of the situation we find ourselves in, because if we're accused of transphobia, right, it's a human impulse to drag out your trans friends to prove that you're not. Okay, that's just an impulse. I know I found it, like when I did the verboten, right, it was not, and I tried to sort of, I broached this subject with people as well, with trans people being used as sort of footballs and human shields for both sides, bringing out your trans friends. And it's almost like you're sort of collecting Pokemon and having a battle to see how many trans friends everybody has. And then they're going to battle and see who wins. It's like, that's not how this should work. This is what this debate has done, which is by calling people who ask questions bigots and transphobes and anti-trans, you force people to bring out all of their trans friends as fucking chess pieces, okay? And by, so this is the thing, okay? This, I've tried to explore this issue with the trans friends that I've got. I am actually extraordinarily conscious of that, of making sure that I keep that in check, that I don't just tag my trans friends in every debate and have them do all of the heavy lifting. What we need to do is make our ideas win on the benefit, on the basis of the fact we don't need that, okay? What we need to do is say this is the feminist argument, the feminist perspective, the traditional radfem perspective. There are different feminisms, okay? You calling people, name calling is not allowed. So in philosophy, this is what I was actually trying to get to, the principle of charity and, various other things, which is that these people are not worthy of debate. So usually in philosophy or politics, well, politics not so much, but in philosophy, traditionally speaking, okay, if you start name calling, you lose. the debate is over. The debate is won. Okay? If you start slandering people and defaming people and harassing people, you have lost the debate. Okay? Now, also, things like the principle of charity, things like, it's called other things, like there's a principle of humanity and various other things that are related to it, but they're basically the same thing, which is what you need to do is make sure that when somebody says something, that you treat it with respect, with empathy, and understand that they have come to a certain conclusion for a certain reason, and to hear those reasons out before jumping to debate. Right? Now, I know that I'm saying this as somebody who, like last night, I was saying you need the principle of charity and you need to exercise that. And then I turn around and call all Americans stupid and them all fucking knobs because they're being stupid, but they're also not worthy of debate. Okay. And that's the thing. All right. That you need to be more strategic about the discussions that you have, especially online and especially on Twitter. Okay. So the principle of charity assumes that that can run out. So that can be used as a weapon. That can be used to gaslight you into like accepting any fucking argument. And that's where I think the humanities have gone wrong. It's where sociology particularly has gone wrong, which is that the PhDs and theses and all of those sorts of things and the sort of research, which is that, in the humanities, if you can argue the case through, this is what's happened, right, with critical theory, which is the only rule is that if you don't, it doesn't need to make sense. It doesn't need to be filtered through science or maths. That's what science and maths are for. Okay. What it needs to be, you need to be able to argue the case. Now, the problem is that people have taken these sandbox of ideas, which the humanities are supposed to provide the inspiration for science. Okay, philosophy and science work together. So this is one of those things with splitting of disciplines. I know I'm just fucking free-forming it, but I'm just saying. Aristotle was both a scientist and a philosopher. Okay, he's the granddaddy of science. He imagined the atom. Okay, but he was also a granddaddy of philosophy. And I didn't realize that until because I obviously did mostly social sciences. But I also sat I was going to go to medical school, did med school prep, ready to sit GAMSAT and so I did I did some science. I had to do some makeup science at university to try and get into medical school. I ended up not going, but, whatever. I didn't know that Aristotle they were talking about Aristotle like he invented science. And I'm sitting there going, hang on a minute, Aristotle invented philosophy. And that was a moment for me about 10 years ago, I think, where I realized that as you need to be thinking about the bigger picture. But at the end of the day, philosophy and science and humanities and data and maths, they work in conjunction with each other. Okay, this is what I come back to the social dilemma. If you're an engineer and laughing and patting this little social scientist who's been 25 years in tech on the head for saying, hey, I've got some ethical issues with this thing, and you think that you know everything because you're an engineer, that doesn't work. If you think you know everything about if you see, and this is one of those things that I have my frustration with, I think IDW types, is that what they do is they're good at their discipline and then they think that they know everything about every discipline. I don't claim to know anything about biology, okay? I ask them and I defer to the experts, okay? But I also ask people to defer to me on various things that I'm an expert in. That's how it should work, okay? So there's this adversarial thing when it comes to theory. So anyway, my point was, I can't remember what my fucking point was because the fucking kid... I can't remember what my point was. Yeah. So, I think that if you want to have a good life, okay, and be a good person, be curious, okay, think, but and don't think that have all of the answers. I think that that's the thing. And now, so cheering on the illness of a human being, even if it's a repugnant human being, okay? That makes you a bad person, okay? It makes you a bad person. Going out of your way to attack, even if it's an argument that has a point, which is that people do fawn over men in feminism. They give them money. Like, I wanted to put a billboard up, but no one gave me fucking money. Okay, what they did was they fall over the dude, who then turns around and tells feminists off and tells us to shut up and fucking lectures us and kicks us out, right? That happens over and over and over again, right? Putting trans people, like, just having even TV, right? Again, this is nothing about the individuals, okay? The first thing, J.K. Rowling does is engage trans people, not the women, okay? They don't. It's like, because the first thing that we're trying to do is clamour and prove that we're not transphobic. And that's I think you should really think about your motivations if you're using people in that way. Okay, because the feminist argument is the feminist argument. Okay, we don't need to bring anyone along to prove that the feminist argument exists and is worthy of listening to. That's patriarchy, is the fact that you feel that you need to drag people into the debate, right, and use them to add weight to what you're saying. Then it's 100 years, several hundred years body of philosophy. Okay, if you don't need any further evidence that women's studies and feminist thought is not considered a legitimate school of thought, which it is. Okay, just look at the way that we second guess ourselves and try to water it down and make it palatable. It's like, no, it's a body of thought, it's a school of thought, it's a legitimate one. Learn it. But also, don't use people, and you don't need to make your case and make your argument by defaming and attacking trans people. And that's my point. Okay. Anyway, sorry, I went off on a fucking tangent. But I'm saying it's not the belief, it's the behavior, because ultimately I do think that article does have some valid points. And it's not about purity and it's not about all of that stuff. It's about thinking. And this is why journalism is dead, okay? Journalism's fucking dead, because a journalist with any kind of ethics would see the difference. This is why media ethics exist, because there is a difference between making an argument, stating your case with anonymous, generalized data, right? And singling out individuals in a hit piece. All right. That is very much the difference between journalism and fucking gutter press. And I don't do gutter press because it hurts people. Okay. And that's what I don't like. I don't like seeing anybody hurt. Okay. Now, obviously, if it comes down to me being hurt versus somebody else, I'm going to lash out. And also the fact that I can write jokes. Jokes are fucking off the table. That's a free pass. Shut the fuck up. They're different things. And there were some funny Trump jokes. But for the most part, what I try to do is abide by the principle of charity. All right. Now, I'm going to screen share, even though the wheel fucking fell off this thing. But the principle of charity, right? Just, again, I didn't go to Wikipedia because that was really vague and it's not really thing. But try to exercise this in wherever possible. Again, jokes are different. It's the culture of Twitter. We can't hold everyone to this all of the time, but it's a good principle to live by if you can. All right, especially in philosophical philosophical debates. So, the principle of charity is a presumption often made in philosophy whereby preconceptions about an argument, a topic, or a belief, are set aside in the attempt to gain new understanding. Okay, so what you do is basically you suspend your own beliefs for a minute. All right, so what you would do is, in this situation, just assume that you don't believe what you believe and that you're a clean slate. Okay, you're a blank slate. And a lot of this can be achieved by asking Socratic questioning, right? It's all these variations. But So suspend your own beliefs and seek a sympathetic understanding, right, of the new idea or ideas. Now, this is actually good for countering propaganda as well, because, you know, like with the Melania video this week, you know, all you need, or even the Proud Boys comment in the debates, right? I instinctively watch these things with a grain of with skepticism. I make sure that I hear the whole thing and the context in which the statement was made. I make sure that I am charitable, right? That my own feelings are not clouding the judgment of the thing. And it often helps me get to the truth a bit better, right? Which was that Trump was trapped. He was responding to a clear Kafka trap, and he couldn't denounce white supremacy because everyone's being called a white fucking supremacist and it's meaningless. If he did that, he would fall for the trap, and he couldn't do that. Okay? They brought up the Proud Boys, not him. Okay? And he just went, I can empathize with Trump in this one, believe it or not, that what was he supposed to do? He goes, name a group. That was his way of deflecting the question. It was a trap, right? Deflected the question. And then when he said, name a group, name a specific group. Oh, the Proud Boys. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. They're nobody. And then he had some fun with it, right? That's how I see it. But that was because I had a charitable view of things. And I took everything that he said, including the fact that he said that he would absolutely denounce it, sure, if they were actually white supremacist groups. Okay? And that was the thing. So that I can see it from that point of view. This is what the principle of charity does to you. It helps you to be a little bit better. And also but it also makes you very much hated by everybody because you end up finding yourself defending Trump and Melania more than you'd like. Okay. But so basically what you do is you assume it's true. You assume the ideas are true, right? There's a different, and not even that it's true, that there's evidence, just it's just being charitable to the other person or assuming that they have information that you don't. Okay. And also just seek to understand the ideas. Right. So again, this is skimming, it's complex, blah, 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 but it's just a good thing to look at. Right. Ask if you're conducting yourself in this way or not. Now, but yes, so listen and read and learn, because you might actually get new information, right? So when that was interesting. So with the Trump debate, that was an interesting one, and with that moment that everyone's freaking out about, because when I actually sat down and I looked at the actual transcript, which was, "Will you denounce white supremacy?" I can't remember the exact words, but he was basically like, "Sure, yes, sure." He knows it's a trap. He's banned this critical race theory. He knows this stuff. He knows about the traps, right? And he dodged the trap. And he said, well, yes, of course I will, if you name the groups. And then they said Proud Boys, which they're larpers, right? First of all, they're probably not white supremacists, right? They're misogynists, not white supremacists. And they're more of a reaction movement to the extremes of woke. They're sort of like the equal and opposite reaction. So grain of salt, right? But they're not. So he just laughed and went, yeah, okay, stand up. Yeah. And that's probably honestly how I would have dealt with it if I was put in that position, right? If someone had said in a debate to me, right, was like, oh, Pink News said that this is X, Y, Z, and I would have just gone, oh yeah, okay, let's have some fun with it. They're not credible. All right, that's what I think happened. Again, all right. And George, that's fine. You can think what you want, but I also don't think. I didn't say that you can't do it. I said you need to reflect on whether you are as good a person as you think you are for it. That's the thing. That's the thing where if you don't like something and you rationalize wishing harm on people, then that's on you. But I'm saying that I don't think that makes you in the right. I don't think it makes you a good person. I don't think it makes you worthy of discussion. I think it means that you're, like my values apply for everybody. I want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to be prosperous and peaceful and free And I don't believe in wishing harm on people. If you do, then back that up, but also reflect. I'm just saying. See, this is the thing that pisses me off, right? Is people who think that me saying you're a bad person means that I'm going to stop you from doing it. No, I think that this is why being a libertarian is good. This is your journey, your decision. But I don't think that you're a good person. And I don't think that you should be making decisions in a place of power against other people, because it means that you think that it is okay to wish harm on people that you don't like. And I don't think that that qualifies you as a leader, right? And that's what I'm saying. I'm saying you can believe what you want, but you shouldn't be in power. And that's the thing. This is the thing about woke people, right? I think they can believe whatever the fuck they want. They shouldn't be in power. This is the concept. This is called separation of church and state. This is called balance of powers. This is called separation of powers. These are principles that don't kill people. Okay? The reason why this is why we have to fight fundamentalism in all its forms, because anybody who is so embedded in their dislike of people that they are willing to hurt them, they should not be in power. Okay? Powerful people should not be violent people. That's where this goes wrong. So anyway, you can respectfully disagree all you like. That's fine. That's fine. Like I said, but you shouldn't be making decisions. Okay? Everyone's allowed, and this is the thing. It's not the belief. You can have whatever belief you like, but if you behave in a certain way, then I think that that's really important. I'm not imposing I'm not hurting anybody else. I'm not justifying hurting anybody else or taking away their freedoms. What I'm doing is saying that I'm not using pacifists don't sit around with extreme pacifism. Pacifists let people live their lives. People who rationalize violence hurt people using that rationalization. So no, I'm not imposing anything. I'm not sitting here judging you. I'm saying you shouldn't be in power. And I'm saying that you're not objective. They're different things. So I'm saying that if anybody with their finger on a trigger should not be it should not be in their makeup. All right? So anyway, that's my point. So I don't care. So this is the thing about the GC article that I thought, which was that some of the arguments, there were some points, which is that people do tend to financially support and fawn over the men and the trans. I also understand why that is, because if you get accused of transphobia, the first thing you're going to do is bring out your tokens. And that's terrible. That is a terrible thing to do to somebody, okay? But at the same time, so what we need to do, the answer actually lies within having confidence that our arguments are correct. And if your arguments aren't correct, then, you shouldn't, if your arguments are correct, you don't need these tactics, okay? You just win the argument. You don't need to be cruel to people. You don't need to single people out. You don't need to do these things, okay? If the wokes or the Democrats had policies and arguments and a history of, not being just as, like, anyway, watch Jimmy Dore. But I'm just saying, right? I'm not Jimmy Dore. I'm just saying, right, that if they had an argument, they wouldn't need to do this, okay? And this is what the Democrats were about in 2015, apparently, which was going high and rising above this stuff and winning the argument, okay? Instead, what we've done is go into the gutter. Right? Oh, no, George, sorry. I'm just saying, right? I'm not imposing anything on anybody. Sorry, I'm not really, I was just monologuing. I'm saying that if it's a slippery, again, obviously there's degrees to this, right? Obviously, sometimes you do need to self-defense, right? But again, self-defense in the current climate has been used. Some people use the argument with Trump that he is so horrible that he deserves people wishing that he was, wishing him harm. And I would argue that it is when the people are so horrible, right, that you really are tested. And that was the beginning of my video when I said about being tested. your morality being tested, who you are as a person. 2020 is testing every fucking limit that we've got, right? And so for me, I want health and peace and happiness, and I want Trump to get some humility. I want him to see his humanity, and I want him to maybe learn and reflect. But I also want his critics to, because they're being terrible. Okay, they're being awful people. They're being bad people. They're not my tribe. And I'm sitting here going, this is a 74-year-old man who, could die from a horrific disease. I have been on a ventilator. It is awful. I've suffered, years and years of health problems from a lung collapse from being on a ventilator a decade ago, right? Nobody wants this. Okay, there's a woman who's had lung transplants. I don't know if you saw that video. I think that if you are wishing that on, and again, there's a line, right? I'm not talking about irony. There was some funny stuff, and I'm not saying that impulse. I'm not saying I'm better than anyone else. I'm not saying that there wasn't a bit of Schadenfreude there, right? That's funny, it's Schadenfreude, but I felt it, but I didn't express it. I didn't choose to wish harm publicly on somebody. I didn't choose to add to the horribleness. And that's the thing. It's adding to the pylon. And again, I'm not saying, I write jokes all the time. I wrote a fucking joke about Americans being stupid and, all of that sort of stuff. That's fine. It's just a bit of, it's banter, right? It's a bit of jokes. It's how it's built. But I'm just saying these are things worth thinking about. And this is something that I'm thinking about a lot, which is that I'm trying, and this is where it comes into real philosophy of comedy stuff, right? Which is where, how can you be funny and abide by these values? And the only rule is that comedy is free, comedy is a playground, and that you use your own judgment, and that you trust that people don't mean it the way. If someone's offended by a joke, it's about how it was intended. Okay, jokes are sort of they're kind of the exception. But for the most part, right, I just see that if you're adding, I just don't understand people who, I couldn't do it. How, even I retweeted something this morning of that dude who's picking on Anna, right? And I felt bad about it because I genuinely don't quote tweet or do any of that kind of stuff because I try not to add to that. But there's just been so many fuckwits lately. It's, again, George, I get what you're saying, right? I get what you're saying because sometimes I'm saying this is something to aspire to. I'm not saying that we're all perfect at it. I'm saying that it's something worth thinking about, which is, again, this is just sort of, I don't know, it just seems like bad juju and bad karma. I don't know. It just feels like bad karma to do that sort of stuff. And again, not religious, I'm more into philosophy than anything else. But I'm just saying, I can see your point, yes. But Trump actually represents a case where I think he actually, to be honest, is actually a really good case study in the principle of charity, because the principle of charity is something that can apply when it's really severely tested, and also the principle of humanity. Okay, so the principle of humanity basically acknowledges the humanity of the person who's disagreeing with you. Again, remember, this is a methodology and a principle. It's not a law. Okay, I'm not preaching, and these are just ideas. People need to get back away from fucking decrees and declarations and start just going, oh, that's an interesting thought, and moving on. Okay, this is something that I try to live by. Okay, I'm human. I don't fucking, always do it. But my point is that people get tested, okay, which is that when I agree with an article, the essence of an article, but it is being nasty and horrible, right? I will say I don't agree with, I have to denounce, I have to distance myself from that, even if I agree with the ideas, okay? Or being, my political arguments about socialism and Marxism, they're fucking ideas for a start, so shut the fuck up, tribal cunts. But I want freedom for everybody, and I believe that some of these things provide the best way to go about it. Like a mixed economy works best. I want that even for fuckwits, even for idiots, even for people I hate, okay? Because I can make the argument. All right. So I think that's the thing, is that people are just using philosophy like it's fucking, like there's not thousands of years that nobody could ever in a lifetime ever become an expert in all of the philosophy all of the time, all of the arguments. And if you think you have, you haven't. I'm saying we need to get back to being open to new ideas, being charitable. And I was talking about the principle of humanity, which is basically acknowledging that, assuming that people who come to you with a certain worldview, right, that you think is that you disagree with or whatever, you must assume that they that they're just as valid and have come to the same conclusions that you have through their experiences and through their humanity. Okay. One example. See, this is something that I find interesting, because when I as a working class kid, I think it's just part of straddling classes growing up. A lot of people who grow up sort of touching working class, but also upper class, but professional, but, sort of no man's land like me. I deal with C-levels, but also small business, but also tradies, but also grew up like poor and all that sort of stuff. So I've got this sort of strong sense of where people come from. I've had to get along with different people throughout my life. I don't sit in bubbles. When I moved to Sydney in tech, you're exposed to a lot of people who have never left, the North Shore of Sydney. They've never left the upper class of Sydney. They went to, rich boys' schools. They don't know, and they're actually quite charming in their cluelessness about the world. But that's the thing, is that they know what they know, and they don't know what they don't know, and they don't know what it's like to grow up poor. They don't know what it's like to. They think that they work hard. They genuinely believe that. They're not being horrible, right, necessarily. Some of the best people I've met have actually been unfortunate to. I actually feel a sense of sorrow for them and empathy, because they live in such a sheltered world that they don't get the full range of human pain and experience, and that's something that's actually really good. But they don't have ill intent. They just don't know what the world is like. And I think that's what we're seeing with the blue checks, and like, they're fucking morons, and they're fun to make fun of. And yes, we are punching up because they're powerful, right? And all these rich middle class American kids who think that they're oppressed, it's legit funny, okay? But we have to remember that they also know what they know. They have been taught what they were taught. They're victims of this ideology as much as anybody else. But also the fact that it's the parents, right? I failed as a parent, right? I let the internet happen. I let them have I was early adopter, evangelized sort of the old internet, and they were on to. I really shouldn't. They shouldn't be on social media at all, right? They are, and the MAGA people they are. And that's the thing, is that the principle of humanity, the principle of charity, and also I think that you'll find that you learn more if you try every single time. And this is hard. This is at the base of like critical reading, critical thinking, is assuming that the person, maybe it just comes from a belief in humanity and a fundamental, again, this is there's philosophers who argue one thing and philosophers who argue others, right? Some argue that humans are ultimately self-interested and self-seeking. This is all behavioral fucking philosophy, right? This is all large schools of thought. And again, it's like deontological. I can't say that fucking word. The deontological versus consequentialist debate. See, I can use the big words too, but I don't. What that means is that there's people who, there's raging arguments about whether it is the actions or the intentions that matter, right? And I would argue that it's a combination, and I think most people argue that it's a combination. Meanwhile, you've got tribal wars over people who argue that it's one or the other, whereas I tend to be like, well, it depends. Same thing, right? With socialism versus capitalism. It's like, well, there's a whole fucking, spectrum in between that. And it depends. It depends. Is that socialism authoritarian? Is it libertarian? Because I'm a libertarian socialist. But in the real world, I would largely be a social democrat. I am the benefit of and believe strongly in the benefit of a welfare state. Americans oppose the welfare state because that's how they've grown up. They don't know anything different. The proof in the pudding for us is that we have, in Western Australia, we locked our borders down. We have freedom of movement within the state. We have no COVID, and our government gave us a $600 credit on our power bill over the weekend because they got a windfall through a lawsuit with a mining company. Right? The proof is in the outcome, which is that I am the result of a good social welfare system. And, maybe just be charitable. Maybe listen to what people have to say rather than demonizing. This is the problem with ideology in general. The problem with ideology and going outside of philosophy departments and into politics, right? Which is that politics is how all of those philosophies and experiences and 7 billion people try to learn to live together and find consensus in the fucking 72 years or whatever average that we've got on this earth, right? Right? Yeah, so libertarian socialism is based, sadly, it doesn't seem workable. It can work. It's just that you need to get away from statist arguments. So again, this is a separate thing. And again, this is something where the socialists need to just fucking stop being dickheads too. And, full tribes forming over fucking whether we should have a revolution or reform. It's just... Well, do we agree on the core principle, which is that we don't like seeing people disadvantaged? Do we agree on the outcome, right? Some people don't agree on the outcome. Some people want to be authoritarian and they think that their way is the right way. We need to ignore authoritarians. But what's happened to socialism is that somehow, because Americans are fucking dumb for a start, but also they don't know what they don't know, which is that socialism is fractured in 42 different fucking directions, while they're calling a right-wing movement the far left. It's ridiculous. They're not far left. If anything, they're more closely resembling the far right. They're not far left at all, okay? So you don't know what if you call wokes the far left, you don't know what you're talking about. But so, I'm just saying, right, what we need to do is, my point is, you can argue all you want. You can have your opinion all you want. But I do tend to judge people on... I do think that... I don't know, maybe that's just... I'm just somebody who's had to forgive an awful lot. I've had a lot of therapy in my life. I've had to really think about a lot of this stuff and hanging on to things, bitterness, resentment, anger, being horrible to other people. It doesn't make... It hurts you in your spirit. And I don't mean spirit in terms of... I just mean your, who you are. It changes you as who you are as a person. And we live in a fucked up world, right? We live in a world that wants to chip away at our sense of self, our sense of justice, our sense of morality. Tech companies, pharma, all of this stuff, big capitalism, all those things. They want us to lose our souls. They want us to lose who we are. They want us to lose our connections because they just want to harvest us. Soylent Green is social, as I have said before, right? Yeah, it is pretty funny. Moop Sloop said the right wing is calling everything Marxist. They don't know what they're fucking talking about. Like, even saying that critical theory is even remotely close to Marxism, they don't know what... Americans, honestly, they don't know what Marxism is. They have no fucking clue. They really don't know. They've been taught some weird version of like Stalin, like Leninism shit. They don't know. It's so funny. That's why it's fun to, again, despite the, again, principle of charity as an idea, it is funny to laugh at. It is pretty funny because stupid people are funny, right? But it's also just ignorance. And but that said, you can lead a horse to water, but can't get them to drink. And it is quite ironic that the one thing that would actually save the American culture wars right now is a Marxist analysis. It is pretty twisted and funny, right? to actually learn Marxism would be the thing that would actually save them from the thing they think is Marxism. It's pretty funny. So anyway, I can't remember. Yes, anyway, these are just some thoughts. But anyway, I've got a new website. Slowly, it's slow going. I know it's not perfect. It looks okay. It's not my best work, but I'm chipping away at it. I do have some merch there. I am starting to do some merch. I apologize to the Australians for the prices, but the exchange rates just, it is what it is. And GST, I've got to absorb GST as well. I make like $3 on these things. It's not really a lot. If you want to support me and you're going to be nice and buy merch and you don't really want the merch, it's better if you just become a patron or donate. I'm going to set up I'm slowly transitioning so that my website becomes a hub for all of my content. I've got 20 years of content that I need to audit and sort through and retag and categorize and all that sort of stuff to make it like the experience good. But the bones are there. It's just a lot of work that I've got to do to sort of get stuff, up and a good experience. I understand that it looks, I don't have time. I've got to prioritize the paying work. So I did the WooCommerce stuff because I needed to test some stuff for a client's e-commerce solution. But obviously the client's e-commerce solution comes first because they pay my bills. But anyway, but if you want to check it out, let me just quickly, I'll show you. Hang on, let me just show you my where are we? So it's called Bibs and Bobs. It's a bit of a thing, right? And I would never ask for money like if you can't afford it. I'm saying there's a lot of you rich people that are getting richer, so support the women. It's funny how you can give money for a billboard or to fucking dudes, but nobody helps women. I think there's a valid point to be said in that article, but again, I don't think that article was the right way to go about it. You can make your case without picking on people. But anyway, I've got a couple of things. The new category that I added over the weekend was the no thing, right? Which is a bunch of things. You might, the product photos are generated from Printful, and they're pretty bad. They're pretty stocky, but it is what it is. But if you want anything in particular, so what I do, I actually use a drop shipping, I use Printful, and basically what I can do, it's like a Redbubble or, but better quality and like more for me, right? But this is just a pretend stuff. Anyway, that's my website, téasmith.com.au. You can check it out. I'm slowly working on making it a hub. I will be putting courses and things and other various ways of trying to make this a thing. But I am just conscious of the fact that people are broke as fuck and can't afford anything. And I just feel really bad because I don't want to be one of those people that is perceived to be trying to make money, but it's just the reality that we live in, which is that, if I make money doing it, then I can justify it, right? I run a business. Thankfully, as long as I'm booked as a client, booked as a consultant and booked for the agency work, then I don't need to fucking beg for money to people who don't have it. So, either way, if you want to refer my business or refer my work, then that's another thing, which I'm actually going to start building out some content so that I combine my agency with me under my name, and then you'll be able to see the services that I offer. My business website's quite neglected, so I'm just going to fold it in at some point to the one thing. That was weird, man. Like the fact that, and now he's suddenly an expert on fake accounts, which is funny. I'm sure that you thought that I might go in, because I know for a fact that he's wrong about these accounts, and he is actually just a dickhead. And I don't know where he came from. So, but please don't. Right. I don't like, and also just be aware, right, for those of us who've been around for a long time, and I've been around for a long time, relatively speaking, don't support new people, because often, I said this on Twitter, I think last night, which was that it's usually a sign that your movement is gaining ground when you start to attract the opportunists and people who see a built-in audience. Okay. And so that's why I try to walk that line, because one thing is I am good at building a digital presence, and I did the merch and I did all that stuff, and I've got a Patreon and all that stuff, right? But that's because it becomes necessary to do that at a certain point, because people start asking how they can support you. But I don't want to be seen as one of those people that's just sort of walked into a movement and starts making money, because I think that that's a very sensitive issue for a lot of women, especially with why women are redistributing money to men. I have no fucking idea, right? It should be the other way around. And I would urge the men out there who want to support people who are have been doing this a while. Not me. Like, it's neither here nor there. I'm not guilting you into giving me money. I'm saying support Megan Murphy, support Posey Parker, support, people who want to write books, people who want to, put themselves out there. Support Maya, right? Support people like that who are fighting the good fight and are actually really needing help. Support Kira. Was it Kira? The young woman who's suing, right, over her transition. Those people. Okay. But, don't get swept up in the social capital part of this, because that's going to get harder and harder to fight. Especially when now that mermaids are sort of starting to backtrack and people are starting to backtrack, what you're going to see is that all those people who were on the woke train, they're going to suddenly change their minds, and there's going to be a hero's story and a hero's journey and a whole narrative change, and the gaslighting, right? I will guarantee you that a year from now, Jamila Jamil will switch sides and will fucking grift her way through it, right? Be mindful and cautious about these people, because if there's one thing I do know about the internet, it's a scam and a scam artist. So please remember who was there and who was fighting when it was hard. Okay. So, so the career feminists particularly, even me, like I feel uncomfortable. I'd rather, you like the Sydney Sydney Feminist Legal Centre are undergoing a legal battle at the moment with their is that the name? Don't correct me. But I'm just saying, like, there's actual causes where rather than spending, I quoted a billboard, minimum of $50,000 for a Sydney or Melbourne billboard, right? Minimum. Now that money could go to a rape shelter, a number of different places. So think very, very carefully about who you give your money to, me included. If you feel like you want to help me and support me, that's fantastic, okay? But please don't support the new people, especially blue checks, especially people who are seeing, especially if Trump loses, there's going to be a whole bunch of people without careers. It's their full-time job slagging off Trump, okay? So at some point we're going to see that exodus of people, right? So I'm saying this is one thing I do know about the internet is the scams and MLMs and grifters and people who will spot a buck. Soon as this inclusion and diversity stuff is exposed for the cult that it is, there will be people who see the light and suddenly are very loud and very influential, who are trying to make a buck off the back of our hard fucking work. And don't let that happen, okay? So, that's just me. And again, dudes, please try to support the women or encourage other women or support their businesses. I've got a business. I could use the help. It's just one of those things. So, and as long as the thing is also, as long as I get like-minded clients who don't care about me talking, then I'm untouchable. I can say whatever I want. So that's another avenue, which is I've just replaced my clients with clients who are like-minded. So that works really well. And then I don't tell you who my clients are, so they can't fucking go after them. So it works really well. But yeah, so that was just something that I wanted. I don't know. This was just me thinking about some stuff. But I think it's time to reflect. I just don't see the use in being nasty to people in general. Okay. Again, I lack that gene. I will set boundaries and I'm firm and I will tell a joke and I'll laugh and I think that people are stupid. But at the same time, right, there's a difference between mocking and hurting. But wishing harm on somebody or, hoping somebody dies of something that is horrific and what you wouldn't wish on anybody. I think that if you are wishing that, aside from, like I said, Schadenfreude's fine, right? It's funny. We can acknowledge the twistedness and the irony of the whole thing without, there's degrees of wishing harm on people. I don't wish harm on anybody, and that's just me. So, I have a lot of people wishing harm on me, and it's not nice, right? But that's on them, right? They're the ones that are bitter and twisted and ugly inside. And I refuse to let this world defeat me. I refuse to let this world, as it is, crush me. I've let too many things try to crush my spirit over in my life, and I've refused to let some dumb rich fuck with blue hair. I've tried to be crushed by bigger and better bullies than them. All right. So I'm just saying, don't let them take away who you are as a person, and just, I know that sounds hippy dippy and all, but just try to be a bit more charitable. And also, it also just is good for your critical thinking skills, because you might actually learn something, right? Me being charitable towards Megan Murphy and Feminist Current changed my mind and made me see the truth for what it was. And I think more of us could do with that. So, yeah. And it is funny watching mermaids reverse and gaslight everybody. It's funny. And it's just because I love the fact that there are receipts, right? But I would never wish the child or the mother, the individuals, harm. I think that's you see what I'm saying? See the difference is that I can laugh at the ridiculousness. I can think they're horrible people. I think that I have a feeling that this is Munchausen's and a whole bunch of doubling down, because also don't forget, some of us are mothers. We know what it's like, right? Imagine being faced with the idea that you mutilated your own child because you bought into a fucking ideology, right? Have some empathy with that, okay? Which is that she absolutely needs to rationalize it, because if she doesn't, she's going to have to face the reality of what she did, okay? And that's really painful. So I would not want to be in that position as a human being either. So, again, that's that charitable thing, the principle of humanity. And I honestly, if I'd done that, I'd probably be trying to rationalize it as well, okay? What you're seeing is a whole bunch of people, because people don't like saying that they're wrong. People really don't. And there's always going to be 30% of people who, even when presented with the most compelling, crazy evidence that they are wrong, right? That is beyond doubt, they will still rationalize and double down, right? That's what cults do. That's how cults work. So just make it, I think, what's the thing called about prophecies? Can't remember off the top of my head, but when the prophecy doesn't come true, there's always 30% of people who will just believe the new prophecy rather than go, oh, that was wrong, right? This is a big fucking thing, because not only that, you're going to have to face up to what you did to your children. Like, this is just, just try to, I could not imagine, I have made mistakes as a parent, and I've had to face some of those. And, that's the most painful thing that you could think of, is to think that you've hurt your kids, like whether it accidentally or on purpose. I could only imagine what it would be for her. Okay. So that's what I'm saying about charitability, right? My peak trans story, Turfy. My peak trans story, it was a combination of things. I was always a feminist. I just didn't, one of those things, always a feminist, didn't think about it. Okay. Sort of just accepted it. Hung out online, thought that a lot of the crazy woke stuff was the comment section, right? Thought it was just the comment section on Jezebel, that people are crazy, right? They just didn't understand what feminism was. I didn't realize how mainstream this thing was going. And then Caitlyn Jenner was probably the biggest one for me. But, even then I watched I'm Kate, and then I saw sort of winning the Woman of the Year, and the sort of, It wasn't so much, again, it was just, it was cumulative for me because I've always been very well based in theory. It was just something that wasn't at the forefront of my mind. So there wasn't really a peak as such. It was more that I didn't realize that the comment section was real and had come to life, that Tumblr had come to life. Because I study this stuff. I study online communities. I didn't realize that the fandoms were real. Like that there was that people legitimately outside of the internet believed this stuff. And that's where I think it was a combination of things. Someone just linked to Feminist Current and I went, oh yeah, that's the thing. I always just assumed that everybody knew that it was a biological, that I didn't know that people believed what they literally believed you could change sex. And I didn't know about what was happening in the UK with the GRA. I wasn't aware of it because, again, I'm in Australia. So we had that attempt in Western Australia. They attempted to do something along self-ID, but it got killed in the water at consultation, which it should have done, right? And that's what happened with the GRA reform as well. It passed in Victoria, which is on the east coast of Australia, and in Tasmania, but not here. So, but that was actually after I became aware of this all happening. So I've been involved in politics my whole life, right? I was involved in the Greens. I've also been exposed to the degrees of crazy in political parties, and I just hadn't been in them for a while. So I didn't realize that the crazies had taken over, that the lunatics had taken over the asylum in certain parts of the fucking parties. So I'm now with the Australian Labor Party. So long as they don't try, West Australian Labor don't try to pass self-ID, I will stay a member, but otherwise I will resign if that becomes an issue. Yeah, my peak trans story was more just, I just learned. I was told to educate myself, and I did. It was just something I hadn't really thought of. I just thought that the trans thing was transsexuals who needed love and support and understanding. I had met several because, obviously in politics and working with not-for-profits through my business and those sorts of things. I'd been exposed to a number of transsexual people who were decent and kind, and I needed understanding. I didn't know the wave of misogyny and dick waving that was actually going on. Obviously, once I became aware of things like Yaniv and McKinnon and those sorts of things, I became aware of that stuff. I saw the writing on the wall. This was 5 years ago. It's been gradual, and then just suddenly, I think during Yaniv, I actually took like a 2 or 3 year break from Twitter because I decided that Twitter had changed. I was like off Twitter. I used Twitter a lot when it was first started. Like I was one of the first 500,000 people to sign up. This is my second account because I had a stalker and stuff. And anyway, but I've been on Twitter since the very, very beginning, and I embraced it and loved it and all that sort of stuff. And then around 2013, I lost interest in it because I realized that it was becoming toxic. And then obviously when Trump got elected, it just became like the Trump channel and the anti-Trump channel and the outrage machine. So I just lost interest. I was like, no, I'm focused on sort of I actually really do like Facebook as a platform because it allows me to write long form and write snippets of ideas. Like one of the things with my book, I've had to download my Facebook archives because that's been like the large portion of content that I've created over the last couple of years when my blog's been neglected. But Yaniv got me back on Twitter. So that was when I started being more active. So all of the followers and everything that I had sort of, they were all I was sort of laying dormant. So I can see how it might look like I just suddenly reactivated and got weaponized and like all that sort of stuff, but that's not the case. I just saw that I needed to be in the conversation on Twitter in the absence of Megan and a number of other people. And I just actually went in thinking, well, there's no harm in being banned because I don't care about my Twitter account. And obviously then I started to become aware of things like Evergreen College and all those sorts of things. And the work that I've been doing with digital communities and cult psychology in my work, I went, oh, shit, okay, this has become a thing. So I could actually diagnose this and know where it came from. So at some point, I might be able to write and produce an actual fucking book or something like that on this topic. But again, you pay them in. You pay them in to put up billboards. So anyway, yeah. So, but I've also always been someone who's in the naughty corner for fucking having opinions. So I don't care. Right, I'm fighting for truth and all of that sort of stuff. I've always been in trouble. Even like I was mobbed on Twitter before it was cool. Right, like I said, I had a stalker in 2011. Right, I was getting death threats in 2011. Right, my ex, we're good now, but at the time sort of incited a whole fucking mob against me. Right, I've gone through all this in the early days. And I've gone viral and all that stuff. So I know all of this stuff. It just looks like I'm, it's like, I've gone through all this. This is all old hat to me. Like, this is fucking old. So anyway, I'm going to go. I have work to do. I have client work to do. I just thought I'd check in. I know this has been a while, but I just get it out. I'll go back to daily probably next week. I've got 2 projects at once that I'm trying to work, and it takes all my energy. So, but I'm just saying hello, and I really want to try and get chapter 2 of my book done. Right, I really want to try and get chapter 2 of my book done, and out, because I also. My book is about these stories, right? About motherhood forums, about the role of mother forums, like in the early days. Being on a parenting group on September 11th, 2001, which was when my daughter was actually born. I was on a mother group of women who had babies around and on that time, and it imploded, right? I've got a lot to say about America and Usenet and, the culture wars and where they came from. I've got a lot to say about it. I'm trying to get the book done, but it's one of those things. It's one of those things. I don't have the alt-right fat cash, and I'm not funded by anybody. So, I don't have a book deal. I don't have any of those things. I just do my own thing. And I'm sure that eventually I'm the muse. I chip away at things and do my best. So if you know any literary agents and want to get me a book deal, that would be cool, because then they'll pay me to do the book and then I'll get it done. I've got the first chapter out. Read it. It's on my Patreon. And it's actually available, to the public as a public post on Patreon. So have a look. If you like it and you want to get me a literary agent, go for it. I love you. Thank you for your precious life seconds. 1 hour and 35 minutes. Pretty good. All right. I love you. Please do reflect. Don't wish harm on people. Don't drink poison and hope the other people die. It doesn't. It just rots you from the inside. Don't do it. Okay? Be nice to each other. Be kind. Not the gaslighty kind of kind. The real kind. Okay? If you're being gaslit, tell them to fuck off. You don't have to be kind either. All right? You don't have to be kind to everyone, but do try to be kind. See? Grey areas. All right? I love you. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you some other time. Don't know when. Probably next week. Bye.